Welcome back. 7:24 on this Sunday morning. Yesterday was Holocaust Remembrance Day, and this morning we're speaking with a historian who gives us a glimpse of a brand new book that breaks down the complexities of the Holocaust. Remembrance Day, the lives of lost of the genocide, is still an issue for many people who are trying to get the facts out about the Holocaust. But there are questions out there in the world amongst some people who question whether or not it even happened. Joining us this morning to understand the facts is Holocaust historian Dr. Dan McMillan. Dan, good to have you with us this morning. Where does this come from, people who deny that the Holocaust even happened?
Well, the people who are peddling this mind poison, I think, have to be anti-Semites of the most vicious kind. I think hatred for the state of Israel drives a lot of people who are selling this. But then the question is, why do millions of people around the world buy into it? I think that comes perhaps because the Holocaust is the only historical event that truly frightens us. Other events, tragedies sadden us, and I think the Holocaust is uniquely frightening because the people who did this, that we're talking about the ruling class of our most advanced society, effectively decided that individual human life had no value whatsoever. If we could go back in time and ask these killers, why are you doing something so ghastly and so cruel? I think they'd shrug their shoulders and ask us, why not? They're just people. There was just factors that came together in time, the slaughter of young men in World War I, scientific racism, the deification of Adolf Hitler that made this possible.
When I was listening to a lot of the survivors over the weekend talk about the big concern right now is as we are losing more survivors, they're very concerned about who is going to tell the story here on in. How big of a factor is Holocaust education, and why don't we have it in more places?
Why we don't, about 33, I think, of the 50 American states don't have a legal mandate requiring Holocaust education in the schools. Why that is baffling to me, but I think that maybe one reason why it's not better taught and more widely understood is that if you want to talk about the whole story about why did this happen in Germany, why the Jews were the targets, and so on and so forth, you can get lost in the weeds of an endless amount of detail. I think it's that, but if we really focus on what's most essential, that is, what were the factors that caused this radical negation of the value of human life, this is really, in my view, what makes the Holocaust the Holocaust. It's what makes it most frightening. And it's if people are going to have a sense of, a way to understand how this was possible,
right,
we need to focus specifically on that.
It's important to never forget. Dr. Dan McMillan joining us live this morning. We thank you so much. Maureen?
Thank you.